My name is Nelda Spell Mitchell. I have 2 books here. Have I told y'all this? You have to have volume 1 and volume 2 to get all the stories I wrote down about some of the things that happened in my life and my husband's life as we were growing up. Some of the stories that we actually were involved in, and some of the what our family were, and then some we were just told about and we wrote it down. But it was all stories we enjoyed telling over and over as we had a spare minute to sit in the swing under the oak trees in the yard. If you want to have these books, just check with Mr. Amazon and he will have them printed up for you and send them right to your door. You have to get volume 1 and volume 2. And they make wonderful gifts to somebody that you need to give something that they don't have. And while I am talking about the Mr. Amazon and YouTube, on YouTube, our grandson, Weston Mitchell, has a post that's called Big South Ranching. He films different activities about his work with his cows on his cattle farm, and you might enjoy those. Just click on Big South Ranching, and you'll see Weston Mitchell, his live films about things that he's doing. Now, today, I'm going to read you one of the stories. It's about my father-in-law, and here's a picture of a truck, and it says Mr. Bury's side planks. Now, these are not my father-in-law's side planks, or it's not his truck. This is a truck that belongs to our son, Don, and he and our grandson, Luke, and our friend, Johnny Wayne Burns, were making these side planks on this truck when I took the picture. And they will be used to haul soybeans and corn so that they don't spill out. But Mr. Bury used his mostly to haul cattle. So I'm going to read you this about Mr. Bury's side planks. Wham, blam, blam. Stomp the brakes, Dennis. Leonard yelled, stomp the brakes. Mr. Bury shouted, no, son, gear it down. Their old truck swerved and swayed as it lurched down the hill of the 1-lane gravel road from their barn. Dennis slid off his wooden Coca-Cola crate so he could stand on the clutch as he jerked the gear shift lever. Mr. Bury continued to order, let her go, son. Stay in the middle of the road. Don't get too close to the ditch. They may turn us over. Stop at the bottom of the hill. That wild yearling has jumped clean through the side planks off the back of the truck. Quick, before the rest of them jump. Well, yearlings bounced the truck as they fought to be next to jump off. Leonard's head hit the middle of the windshield. Mr. Bury jerked open his door and swung out. Leonard Knight was a friend that worked for Mr. Bury. Leonard said, dang, if I'd have known I was going to get killed this morning, I'd have drunk the rest of that fifth of moonshine I got hid in your barn, and I would have eaten my seed peanuts. I sure would hate for either one of them to waste. Dennis said, I got it stopped without hitting the ditch. Hurry, dagnabbit, both of you, find a limb and head 'em off. They're running for the woods, Mr. Bury shouted as 13 more steers jumped through the splintered boards off the truck and ran in different directions. He continued to rant as they chased the steers the half-mile back to the house. Just as quick as I can get this blankety-blank truck to town, I'm a-trading it. I'm going to buy some top-quality cypress lumber. I'm going to build some new side planks and bolt them together. Then I bet blankety-blank I get all my yearlings to the stockyard. Leonard said, Uncle Bury, the truck's only got a busted windshield. Why don't you just shoot that wild steer and eat him? And I can patch these old side planks up, and they'll hold the other steers. Leonard Knight, you worked for me long enough that I'd figure you'd take the walls off the barn to do the patching, Mr. Bury said. Oh, I wouldn't do that. Leonard winked at Dennis. I was thinking about borrowing the slats off of Dennis's bed. Dennis was 12 years old, and he laughed and skipped around. He said, what kind of truck you gonna get, Daddy? You gonna get a brand new one? Can I drive it? Mr. Bury put his thumbs under his overall straps, and he pulled his shoulder back and said, it'll be the best Chevrolet money can buy. Leonard latched the lock gate behind the last yearling that was chased inside. As he rolled a Prince Albert cigarette, he reminded, for a fellow that's got more money than most of us know how to count, you ought to spend a little to hire a carpenter to cut up bought lumber into side planks. You and me are champions at building lot fences, but we ain't never got one straight yet. We always just use our eyeball measurements. Mr. Bury said, don't you fret about that. We'll go up to the schoolhouse and use that new faux egg shop. Leonard continued to argue. He said, well, being president of the school trustees don't make you no expert. Well, if I say so, that's the way it's going to be. It was the summer of 1951. The corn and cotton were laid by, and it was time to catch up on rainy day jobs. No time was wasted getting to the new side planks. Dennis drove the new Chevrolet truck to Caswell Lowry's water wheel-powered sawmill and picked up the lumber that Mr. Lowry had selected and saved for Mr. Bury. At the Voeg shop at Salem High School, Mr. Bury waved to Dennis. Pull her on up to the door. We'll work on this outside concrete slab. Hey, Leonard, chalk the wheels. No one noticed that this outside concrete pad was a ramp and that the front of the 2-ton truck, it was 10 degrees higher than the back. We're going to build the side planks on the truck, and then there'll be no mistakes. We're not going to make them and then put them on the truck. We're going to just build them on the truck, and then we'll be sure. And I'm going to fix the corner post myself. He did. Mr. Bury held a level against each one, cutting it off so the bubble in the level was even. Leonard and Mr. Bury measured, cut, and bolted boards on these posts for 2 days. They left the truck overnight there so their work would not get out of line. As the side planks neared completion, Dennis entertained curious neighbors who had stopped by. "Y'all stay around and see them when they're finished," he invited. Some complimented about the superior quality of the lumber and what a good job they were doing. The agriculture teacher, Mr. Charles Peake, came by and he said that he wanted to use them as an example for his students in the fall. A neighbor teased Dennis, "I saw you driving this big truck. What have you been eating that makes you so smart?" He said, "Well, we had sandwiches. We had mayonnaise sandwiches, and yesterday we had ketchup sandwiches. We had light bread, and just Daddy spread it on with his pocket knife. It was so good. Daddy even bought us knee-high orange drinks, too. He said he didn't want to take time to go home for dinner, but the truth is he really didn't want anybody he did not want to mess when anybody was bragging on him because there was lots of people stopping by to watch." When the last bolt was tightened, Mr. Bura picked up his level and wrench and swung off the truck. "Okay, son, back her up so we can get a good look." Dennis kicked the blocks from behind the wheels, hopped on his Coca-Cola case, revved the motor up, eased off the clutch, and the truck rolled off the ramp. Oh, some of the men that were looking on, they spat their smiles on the ground with tobacco juice. Some lit cigarettes and held their hands over their smiles. Others looked down, kicked the dust, and mumbled about needing to mosey on. Well, Mr. Bura said some words that he shouldn't have said. He beat his hat against his leg, stomped his foot, and said some more words. Dennis jumped out and looked. "Daddy, why are the side planks leaning back? It looks like an old truck in the funny paper that looks like it's going fast even though it's standing still." Leonard scratched. He said, "Well, I'll be hornswoggled, Uncle Bura. Your level must be off." Mr. Bura said, "Level my foot. It was this confounded ramp. I never noticed that. I never noticed it was a ramp." Oh, goodness, his face turned red. He said, "Well, I'll be damned. I'll never live this down." Dennis and Leonard took the side planks off and laid them on the floor of the truck to go home. The truck was used to haul steers to the stockyard, cotton to the gin, and barn to the barn. 3 years later, the side planks were used as a floor for a pier into the farm pond. The pier post finally rotted and the side planks sank to the bottom, where they lie today in the mud. If you like to hear the stories, you just check on like. You mash that little spot that says like. You put comments, and you punch that subscribe button.